A spot in HGC 2018 is on the line, and we are tied up 2-2. Jay Howe, can you believe that turnaround in that series, and how does that mentally afflict HeroesHearth?
It looked like it put quite a bit onto them for the second half of that game. We looked at games 2 and 3, and HeroesHearth, after game 1, which they pretty much got controlled, games 2 and 3, they came out, they were aggressive, they put the pressure on, and they dominated in 2 games. And then they were dominating for the first half of game 4, even as like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Party time. And they came back, turned it around.
Before we proceed into this match, you all have a job. Bust out your phones, pull open your browsers, and get on social media. Spread the word, because these teams are playing in what could be a life-changing match. Becoming a pro gamer recognized by Blizzard, there is no greater honor in esports. This means so much. You can win the World Finals. You can win BlizzCon. That is the highest tier. It starts by making your way into HGC, and this is such a huge moment. BBJ, Ishbu, guys that we've cast all year long have never had that flavor. Yep. Let's see what our map is going to be for Game 5.
Cursed Hollow. Cursed Hollow, depending on where you're at. And it is going to be even in Death's map choice. HeroesHearth opting to take the first pick. So it seems these teams have a high priority on first pick, being able to control the draft a little bit. So yeah, HeroesHearth sending it over. They said, you can pick the battleground. It doesn't matter where you take us. We just want first pick. And Cursed Hollow, pretty neutral battleground. We'll see what they can do with it.
Straight into the draft. I'm very curious where Falstad's going to land. That's another one of the heroes that we talk about in the last couple of days in the matches we've had, where boss control comes into play, global comes into play, all with that hero. HeroesHearth, however, when we look at Tyrael, not something they're super known for necessarily.
Brightwing ban. Nobody wants to deal with the double support. Brightwing, way too strong, even in Death, continuing the trend of making sure that Morales is not in the game, keeping that away from HeroesHearth. And we get a first pick Abathur coming out here on Cursed Hollow.
I can dig it, man. I really can. It's not at all the standard, but why are you so giggly?
Just timing.
Yeah, I really wanted to drink that water, but it feels bad, man.
Rhaegar ETC is staple when you are second pick and you want to just keep it neutral.
I'm waiting for the camera to go to you.
Give me that solo shot right now. What's up, everybody? But we've got ourselves a draft. Will it be the Illidan? Will we kind of see play around the Greymane, which we've seen prominent for Crowan and team throughout HGC's open division and even in his professional past? So they've got some decisions to make, but they might want to wait. They might want to wait and see what will be the counter. Instead, they go directly into that Greymane Tyrael composition.
This broadcast is sponsored by Hydration. Drink water. Yeah, Greymane and Tyrael is actually very, very, very much a different style than what you see out of the average double support. They're going dive, they're going aggro. And we saw this earlier in this tournament. And, you know, commonly when you look at HeroesHearth, you have Arthlon as the Abathur. But if I'm not mistaken, they played this composition with Crowan on Chromie, because Arthlon's also primarily their Chromie player. And it became like this chaotic situation where you have 2 Greymanes diving in, being this big issue. You call for the focus. You don't always necessarily make the right decision in the chaos of, oh, I hit the Abathur clone in an accident with my Hungering Arrow. Does that decide the game? The match? It could in some cases, and Chromie's raining sand on your fort, and it just feels bad. We'll see. We'll see. Definitely. We've seen it before. Malthael ban. I don't think they want Malthael here.
Just wanted a sandcastle, man. So you got to look at counters towards the Greymane Tyrael. Generally, it's kind of been traditionally the Arthas, but with the ETC already picked up, the Arthas seems less likely. So you look at other heroes who potentially have global control, heroes that can survive in those types of skirmishes, especially those melee-style skirmishes where you get value out of that sweeping strikes, as we saw last game going in at level 1 to make sure you have that added duration. You get that extra heal at level 7, things that just can really add up. So you take the Illidan, you take the global off the board, something that also has really good early boss pressure if you want to try and solo that against an Abathur style composition. So there's some really good thought processes going in here.
I agree. They just played the Illidan, they ended up winning with it. TAS is still on the table as well. They could easily go TAS at Arvala and have a phenomenal composition with the ETC Rhaegar TAS Vala. That's like very cookie cutter, but it's Cursed Hollow. Like that is a great way to be able to approach the map.
The Malthael was banned because the dive potential of a Sanctification plus Greymane, plus Clone Greymane, plus Tormented Souls is pretty terrifying. But I really fear that you might be giving up the Uther over to the other side. You talked about BBJ. We don't traditionally see him on that, but we're talking about the dive style.
Yeah,
you already have one form of protection material. Maybe, well, traditionally we see the second, but maybe they just play it a little bit different.
Could be the case here. I like the Dahaka, not the TAS Vala right out of the gates as it could have been. Dahaka matches the global of Abathur, and that is very important. Also gives you those snap rotations you'll be looking for. This does mean it is a solo carry style. And, you know, you were talking about Uther. They could go Lunara if they wanted to counter that Uther, if that ends up being the case here, to be a little bit more of that oomph. I wonder where they'll land.
I feel like they might go a second melee and just kind of keep Greymane as that solo ranged who moves into the melee and just have that all-in composition. Against the ETC, you could just wait for Sanctification to come out. You've got the Mosh Pit. So the likes of something like a Li Ming, if you can flex somebody over onto Greymane, you could put Crowan over onto the Li Ming. They get the Arthas, but they do end up going into that second melee. So this is an all-in style composition.
It is. And like we mentioned about Lunara, she does good against Uther. Vulnerable to dive, very vulnerable to dive. Will need the peels if they choose to play that, but it will be a solo ranged assassin in this last slot. They choose Cassia, the blind. Good assistance in those instances.
Charge strikes is terrible to deal with, by the way. It is terrible to deal with if you're on the side, especially a melee heavy composition, to where you can get value out of that. And in terms of hard CC, you can get a root, you can get a slow, but you can't necessarily lock Cassia down in these instances. So it's not exactly a foolproof composition if you're on the side. We know what you're going to do post 10. It's a matter of what do you do in the laning phase, in the early game. Can you get those bosses? Do you need to play around that? Or are you going to be that late game, one trick, one team fight type of style? We're going to find out.
And, you know, just looking at the drafts we have here below us, I love how we're just staring at a screen, yet the illusion is fantastic.
Yes.
So stylish. Tyrael, Holy Ground, Sanctification, so many good tools that they have in their arsenal for those plays. And while we saw a big game swing in the form of a mosh pit on 5 members, bringing Even in Death back in, you always have to think when you're going for a boss, your boss, their boss, anything, can we deal with Tyrael? Is this a good call? Weigh the risk and the reward that exists on the map, and in a way, HeroesHearth just have a strategic advantage just because of Tyrael alone.
If you're going all in, we might see another Divine Storm. Just get in there, expect the mosh pit coming out of it, so instead of letting that be a thing, just blow up as many people as you possibly can and cross your fingers. So we'll see how it plays out here in our game number 5.
We're tied up. It's a best of 7. Cursed Hollow is the 5th map of the series. We're rolling in to see who's going to push forward in the lead.
Even in Death, even it up 2-2 in our last game on Towers of Doom. We're going to see Battery again on that second support role. He'll be on Ariel. Lutano, what can he get done on the Cassia will be the big question, is how going to be split soaking on Dahaka, Frozen X on the Rhaegar, and leaving Homicidal. Be trying to make those dance parties happen one more time on the ETC.
Ishbu on the Tyrael is going to be BBJ on Uther. We've got Arthalon playing his Abathur as a first pick in the draft. McIntyre lands on Arthas, and Crowan on his Greymane. Mosh Pit, definitely something they're going to have their eyes open for here. And Cursed Hollow, very standard when it boils down to it. Now, there's a few different things that can happen here when you run the lone Cassia in the team fights. That happens at level 10. Before then, it's going to be a pretty standard game. But pre-10, the lack of additional body, having the Abathur on your team, can sometimes be punished by your opponents. We may see some fairly aggressive posture trying to poke down structures from Even in Death, considering the fact that Abathur isn't always going to have the same kind of impact.
I want to talk about the builds just a little bit here on the side of Heroes Hearth, because Eternal Hunger was picked up by Arthas, not going into that questing build, trying to get those roots, instead making sure you get that mana in return and that damage increase. So we'll see how often he's able to get that procced and get that going, as well as Uther again going into the auto attack build. And when we saw this previously, they were all in with their composition, they were all in with getting the stuns, the lockdown, and even into the Divine Storm. So we'll see if they play the similar style already with the talents picked up. It seems to foreshadow that could be our thing post 10.
I'm intrigued. Yeah, that definitely could be the path that is taken here. Pretty standard stuff right now. Feeling each other out. Nobody is stepping for it. I mean, what did we say between the game? It is such a big moment. This series could honestly be the most important series you play in your life. Who knows? If you make it into HGC next year as Heroes Hearth, for all we know, they'll climb up, make their way into an event like BlizzCon. Team Wish over in Europe was one match away from doing that. They were a Crucible team from Phase 1. They climbed all the way from like a couple maps away from going into BlizzCon 2017, but it has to start through the Crucible.
It does. Find out. You know, we had the pleasure of having dinner with Grubby last night, and we were talking about the series today. And we asked, well, what do you expect tomorrow? And then he returns and he says, Jake, what do you expect tomorrow? You said you expected Game 7 out of NA. Well, we got 7 games earlier in EU. Are we going to double up today?
Certainly seems like a high possibility of that with the way these teams have been playing. Frozen X, Butano, and Battery happy to push forward as there's a big power slide being attempted here through 2 members, but the peels are going to be there in time. Both globals down bottom. Good stall with the Eldruin's Might from Tyrael, but honestly, if you look at the mana, you look at the health, there's so much left in the tank for Even in Death to sit here and be very attentive to this tribute.
Well, they've got Dahaka in the bot lane. It was really interesting because Abathur actually stepped out into the lane and then realized that he was there, and he's like, I better get out. Ishbu in quite a bit. I don't know if he's okay. He's got his old druids. But Dahaka was down there. Arthas instantly rotated. They don't want to get behind in experience because the global there will match the Abathur, and the poke potential, the potential fight that you could be having, not exactly the best fight you want to take. So understanding that they don't want to give up much, take advantage of the Siege Giants while you have them. So good call there. Tribute going over to Even in Death, but experience pretty much even right now.
The Wolves decide they would like to slay some knights today. Frozen X devouring their livers, and you get the same happening for Greymane on the other side. 7 being picked up momentarily to confirm the rest of these builds. We've seen a lot of Wolfheart for the Rhaegars, for Feral Heart.
Well, continuing the trend with the Arthas, we see Icy Talons at level 4. You get the extra increased attack speed every time somebody gets stuck within your Frozen Tempest every 1.5 seconds. So contributing to that, I imagine we'll see that built out as the talents evolve here.
Good collapse,
go down.
But Hami's got the peels on that ETC. McIntyre in the front, holding on to his team's positioning as the good old Druid juke is available for the Tyrael. But the health bars, once again, are quite low. And this lack of a 5th body, the Abathur, who is maybe soaking globally right now, makes this so hard to do. Ishbu has a death wish right now, as he will be throwing his life away, conceding that experience to stall this out a bit further. Yeah, he needed a Hearth anyways.
Well, I think he wanted to get out of there, but he didn't get the auto. His Eldruins didn't hit Ariel, so he walked back to get the auto attack in, which was...
So, okay, identical calls across the map. Both teams are going for the boss. There was a mercenary camp pushing the mid lane. I don't know how much damage it got done, but Abathur is getting good value in the top as well. Most of the ammo, all the ammo is gone, so some split presence available for Heroes Hearth. It looks bad with the 2 tributes against them, but all in all, it's as long as they don't lose the next tribute, they just need 10 for that Abathur heroic.
And even then, if you push pre-10 as Even in Death, your curses don't really have a ton of value. Just because it's really early in the game, you can try to stretch that lead. But if you're on the side of Heroes Hearth, that's okay just because you're playing the Abathur composition. I highly doubt we see them contest this. They might just forfeit it.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, some sprays being used somewhere.
I heard it somewhere.
Boss defense gonna be there. Have their minds awaiting as the curse does get picked up. Level 10 will be on a relatively even footing. Now, the top boss keeps Dahaka occupied. It also keeps that lane from being an issue during the curse for a good while. But mid lane is already under heavy siege.
It's under heavy siege, and that's where 10 will easily be obtained. That's kind of the big part of this push. They will have Mule, so whatever remains standing, they will be able to heal it up.
Yep,
it probably won't be that. You talked about the boss in the top. Will kind of keep that top lane in check. You don't get the experience necessarily, but you do at least keep that top lane a little bit safer.
Barely clutching it out. Finding them the XP. 10 is very, very close right now.
This wave will get them 10. I wouldn't be surprised if they insta-clone and just die this. Cleanses out onto Ariel. Army of the Dead is out, and we have the slows there. McIntyre's keeping battery in place. Crystal Age is forced to be used. We've got a mosh pit in return that is instantly cleansed out, and Sanctification going down. Crow and a team are going to get there. The blow-up's going to happen before the Ancestral lands. The Divine Shield is out, and 2 members already down on the side of Even and Death.
The expectation was to see double Greymane diving deep for the plays, but really it ended up being the double Arthas with Frozen Tempest galore. They clean up the fight, only losing their Uther, and now that gives good control to this game for HeroesHearth Esports.
Just going to say it, Even and Death, I think, stayed a tad bit too long.
They couldn't leave. The double Arthas.
You see 10 coming, you just walk away. I mean,
oh, yeah, that's fair.
Better be fair.
Well, they've lost the early game advantage, but you know, this is the way these maps tend to go. If you're playing with Abathur, your whole objective is to just hold on to your structures. You already mentioned the Mule. That's going to be super useful for them. Yeah, that mid forward's down, but I mean, that's negligible at the end of the day.
Can you imagine? Double Arthas. Greymane will have Executioner at 16, which the added damage on the slowed targets there. That could be scary. Of course, you've got the slow from Tyrael as well. There's a lot that will go on there. Divine Shield, of course, was picked up. Not fully all in, but we saw the D-Shield value on Necron once he went in.
Yep.
Got that blow up right before the Ancestral hit. That was clutch play.
Now, it's good to mention that we're not going to necessarily see the Arthas clone every single time. You're not committed to that once you've used it as Abathur. But definitely cool to see that flex posture, or that flex support option or tank option for the team always be used, because in other games, you know, there are games where Abathur will only clone the same target every single fight, and there are games where the clone will be on the support, the warrior, or the assassin. You never know.
Definitely a really good point. McIntyre's going to at least cause some chaos on the backside. Homicidal, getting root, getting stunned, and everything in between. Like, just please let me walk away at this point. Level 13, of course, was picked up here by HeroesHearth. Level 13 now picked up in return by Even and Death.
Well met. Level 13. And I do like that additional control, especially if you're just trying to find those isolated kills onto a single assassin like Cassia. You can find that opportunity, and it makes it so much more difficult to keep that Cassia alive. May get an early Ancestral out of your opposing team.
The AoE vulnerability on the Dark Swarm for Dahaka plus a Ball Lightning could make these fights really crazy. So we'll have to see.
The armor reduction from Dahaka really showing its value right there, though, as Ishbu got very low very fast. They're diving back in. The Ball Lightning goes out. Divine Shield trying to give Crowan that potential to dive in. Nice Howling Blast from McIntyre does keep the team going on. And Rhaegar has his throat ripped out. Another go for the throat. Crowan is still living somehow.
Crowan stood in the Crystal Aegis explosion, knowing that all he needed was that one to get that reset.
Right. This is a 4v5, but it's a 4v4 realistically without the Abathur clone.
But you've got the hat now, which you get the heals, and Ishbu going to dive in instantly on that backline. McIntyre with the flank there on Arthas. If he gets the lockdown, he's going to miss there, but they've got the slow onto Dahaka. Not going to make it out of there, but we've got the instant mosh pit.
The Frozen Tempest might kill Haunuan. Oh, the heal comes through at the last moment. Mosh Pit wears off, and this is just looking really bad right now. Crowan gets a cleanse even after that disengage to make sure he does not die. Lutano won't have the support he wants. Suddenly, the experience, man.
This is getting nuts. Heroes Hearth just dominating post-level 10 with this composition, and it is razor thin in these fights that it could go either way. And so far, Heroes Hearth has been able to clutch it out. They're going to get a boss here. After soaking bottom,
yeah,
they're probably going to make double boss play here.
That's the thing. That was a razor-thin fight. I don't know if that's going to happen again because Heroes Hearth has edged it out. They've outperformed their opponent in both of those situations, knowing their limits. Crowan and McIntyre had a sliver of health at one point at the start of that fight when it was getting chaotic. Neither went down, and now with a boss and that Abathur pressure already weakening the bottom lane, they're scouting it out. They're being safe about it. They see 3 members. They know they can go in.
They can definitely feel comfortable about it. Abathur, depending on where his mines are, will give them vision as well. They should have plenty of time as all 5 members showing onto the top boss. They'll have to fall back. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Heroes Hearth 4-man push this and then use the Abathur to try and pick up this tribute. He's already moving into position. That's exactly what they're going to do. He's there for the moment, has no eyes on the enemy team yet. He has put down mines. You can see tiny little lights in the bush potential next to the tribute. So he does have that. Rhaegar making his way up. Good call here. He'll see the Rhaegar. But now, without the Rhaegar here, they can be far more pressuring. Look for the holy ground now with 16. Try and lock somebody out. Just missing there onto Homicidal. The boss pushing in. This is a dangerous, dangerous position for Even in Death.
Dangerous on both sides. You don't want to step into a 5-man mosh under the enemy team's core, but the Arthalon clone is out and underneath in a very forward position, covering all flanks. The boss is going to be more than enough to get this kill. Nice cleanse keeps Homicidal out of harm's way as the focus would have been there. Dahaka has already left the scene to soak mid because they know they've defended enough, but they did lose that keep. They need 16.
Heroes Hearth played that brilliantly. They knew the minute they didn't see all 5 members, they could push in. Rhaegar went to capture that. They didn't overcommit. They didn't instantly grab it with Abathur. They played that so well. You got to commend them for that. Now they're looking for a potential party bush, seeing if somebody's going to go ahead and roll on through here.
Yeah, look at the flip side. If the other way around, right? If Abathur had stepped forward, if Arthalon was like, I'm going to be safe, they have to defend, this game could look in a very different position, but
well, they're coming around the backside.
Good,
McIntyre.
Intelligent play from Heroes Hearth. Good zoning from all members here, covering all the options, and one more tribute before that curse comes into play. Lots of mercenary camps available on the side of Heroes Hearth. The 16 has almost been picked up for Even in Death.
Siege Giants will be potentially pushing with the next phase, as well as de-pushing the top lane. So we'll see if Even in Death, how luck strikes them, whether they can pick up the tribute themselves. They've struggled in these team fights, but it hasn't been that they struggled mightily. It's just that Heroes Hearth, again, by the thinnest of margins, have managed to pull these out, but it's a calculated approach. Now, if you get the curse for Heroes Hearth, your top lane is basically forfeit at this point because there will be Siege Giants pushed. Abathur can't exactly clear those quickly. You can try, but your big play is going to be a team fight, potential win, bot lane, right here, right now.
McIntyre has the position for a potential double Arthas flanking you from behind. They haven't seen Arthas yet. They should expect something like this. They've actually done a good job zoning everyone away. There's the clone to assist with this approach. Army of the Dead forces an early Ancestral onto Battery, and that is a bad spot. The Howling Blast with the go for the throat gets the kill on Frozen X. Lutano needs the Crystal Aegis, but it's delaying the inevitable.
The
4-man mosh.
Defend. Oh. That is 2 members down. Uther's going to be one of them. Sanctification is now down, and we're still trying to make plays happen. The clone is down as well, and just like that, the Mosh turning this fight again. McIntyre will not make it out alive. That is 3 members down and a clone, and here we are again, Jake, where Moshpit turns this all around.
I am actually speechless. Homicidal is keeping Even in Death alive in this tournament single-handedly by pressing that mosh pit at the crucial moments. First time a full engage, that time just turning the fight when it looked... I mean, I saw the Crystal Aegis go down. I said delaying the inevitable. Well, if you get a mosh pit, you delay nothing. The Crystal Aegis gets full value, damaging all those members. It was fantastic.
Let's step back here for just a moment. The boss on the top right, about 30 seconds away. Level 20 has been picked up from Heroes Hearth. They're still waiting to spawn. You still have potential curse point coming up. Curse plus boss could be game. You have the double clone potential. You have the siege potential of this composition. You have the boss control of this composition. Heroes Hearth still in a pretty good spot despite losing that. The tribute will spawn before they have a chance to make a play on the boss. We have 20 here. If you're even in death, can you afford to give this up? I think that they have to, but we're going to see what call they feel comfortable with, and it looks like they're coming up for defense.
Arthas is a bit behind as McIntyre, slower on the respawn for his team, making his way on up, is going to find Lutano and Homicidal soon after, but doesn't want to be caught isolated on his own as he needs the clone and the Army of the Dead right away. The fight has begun. The focus target once again is looking to be that Rhaegar, but he finds his way into the burrow. We have a nice holy ground locking everyone in. Arthalon will lose the clone, and a nice Crystal Aegis going to pop. Is it enough to kill BBJ? No!
Mosh pit's ready, the D-shield's gonna be used. All of a sudden we've got the cleanse also onto Arthas, and there's gonna be Rhaegar falling, but in the return, you're gonna have Uther down. He will be back momentarily. He's gonna try and heal his team up. And now Ishbu in a dangerous spot, looking for those heals. It is a 4 versus 4 now again with the Abathur hat. Can even in death survive?
Ishbu is very low. We actually see the mule for vision on the backside of the fight. That is a target for the hat. There are mines behind that as well if the retreat happens. How do you end? Goes down, but a big damage from Lutano trying to strike back. The Hammer of Justice says, you will not pass, and Battery ultimately will fall here. It's not game quite yet, J-How, but this is the curse.
Curse point, sidewall on in. Find yourself a core at the end of the yellow brick road. Heroes Hearth is riding that yellow road between the Divine Shield, between the Sanctification, and they're going to take themselves a 3-2 lead in this best of 7. And they've done so with 16 kills to 6 in some of the best team fights we have seen all day long.
A thin line between so many battles. All right.
Oh my.
It couldn't get closer right now as Heroes Hearth have taken their 3rd win in this best of 7 series, and they are 1 map away from Crone and Mac returning to the pro scene. Arthalon as well, and Ishbu and BBJ finally getting that big payoff, but even in death, honestly, are not making it easy for them.
They're not making it easy at all. And that was every single fight that happened. Could have gone either way. The big mosh pit obviously happened, but I talked about the 20 part, and ended up paying dividends in the end as they were able to clutch out the big 20 for Uther, as him coming back in that fight and then allowing them to re-engage worked out pretty well.
That's a game where you have to look at the replays with so many fights like that, so let's get into it. This is 15 minutes into the game, the turning point for Even in Death, where they were fighting at that razor's edge.
They were at that razor's edge, and the Crystal Aegis coming in here, you're going to see Lutano in just a terrible spot. So everybody's clumping up, ready to kill him, and then the mosh pit in return.
Savior Assassin stopped the entire enemy team and lit the Assassin, returned the favor of the DPS. A big swing that kept Even in Death in play, but unlike Towers of Doom, that wasn't enough of a swing. The experience was still so far in favor. I think they evened it down to about a level and a half lead in total. But a little bit later on, we had this final fight over the top tribute.
There it is, the Sanctification going down. They fight under that. Hal doing everything he can to stay alive. Homicidal trying to support that. And you actually see Lutano going back in there trying to put out the damage. He goes down. But again, the 20 tier was just way too much. We actually saw the double symbiote there on Abathur at level 20, so the minute the clone goes down, you've got double the pressure there with the symbiote. So things looked really good team fight-wise. And I can't help but imagine if they play that again, dude, I just flip a coin. Flip a coin.
That game was so ridiculous in terms of the constant action that I completely forgot it was level 20. I was thinking these teams are like level 15, level 16. Didn't expect the death timers to be 45, 50 seconds for all those kills, but that's how intense it was and how back and forth. The next map is about to be determined for this series.